So I just got back from a Dr. Joe Dispenza Advanced 7-Day Retreat, and I'm kind of blown away by all the little synchronicities and coincidences that I was noticing almost daily. Just these wild 1 in a million chances, incidences, or stories happening daily. And I'm actually not alone in that. Almost everybody I was talking to was telling me, like, dude, all these crazy coincidences and synchronicities. And now every time I notice a synchronicity, I always write it down in my journal just so I can remember it and kind of help me train myself to look for these synchronicities. And today I'm going to run through what I think are the 5 biggest synchronicities that I noticed at this event. I'm just going to go through them chronologically, but I think the 5th one is kind of like one of the craziest ones that I noticed or I saw while at this event. Now, if you watch my videos, for the most part, I've been a bit of a skeptic when it comes to synchronicities. I'm a little bit more analytical and pragmatic, and I never really understood, how is that possible? This stuff doesn't make sense. And our brains, we have a part of our brain known as the RAS, Reticular Activation System. And the RAS is responsible for you recognizing and noticing patterns. So if you were to buy let's say a blue truck, and you're thinking, all right, nobody has a blue truck, I'm gonna be unique. And then suddenly you see 5 blue trucks the day that you drive that truck off the parking lot, right? That is your RAS. That's looking for information in these patterns and looking for patterns. Or let's say you're a woman, you're like, I'm gonna wear green fingernail today. And you go out to the club and suddenly you see 3 different women with green fingernail paint on, right? That's your RAS kind of recognizing these patterns. And I think too often, what people claim are synchronicities can be kind of explained away by your RAS. If somebody says, my tarot card reading told me to look for a rainbow and I saw 3 rainbows that week. One was on TV, one was on Instagram, another one was on a bumper sticker. I chalk that kind of stuff up to your RAS. You're just looking for this in this and you recognize these patterns. I'm willing to bet if I challenge you, next 7 days I want you to find a rainbow, you could probably find a rainbow somewhere in social media and in advertising in real life and everything. Rainbows are not that uncommon. So I would just tell people challenge yourself a little bit more. Ask for something a little bit harder. But the synchronicities that I've noticed over this past week, they're not that. They're not just me seeing a color over again or a number or a symbol like a rainbow. Some of these synchronicities are just bonkers. It's just ridiculous and just kind of crazy. And they were happening daily. It was pretty wild. So let me kind of run through some of the synchronicities that I noticed. So, all right. So on day 1, I sat next to a gentleman at lunch. Now, so this is 1,500 people at this event. 1,500 people. And when you break for lunch, it's just in the huge auditorium with all these tables. You can sit anywhere you want. You're not in groups or anything. And I sat next to this gentleman. We're talking, and he's telling me that how during that morning meditation, he was focusing on his first energy center, and suddenly he got this glimpse of this World War II airplane flying directly at him. I was like, wow, okay, man, that's pretty interesting. So we finish lunch and we go back to the auditorium, and I go to sit down. Somebody stole my seat. Somebody is sitting in my seat. And I was like, okay, that's fine. I see another seat over there. Let me go grab this other seat. Not a big deal. And so I went and I sat down in this other seat, and I was talking to the girl next to me. And she was telling me, she's like, yeah, I was just talking to this old guy in line a few minutes ago, and he's telling me that during this morning meditation, he was focusing on his first energy center, and I saw this huge World War II plane flying directly towards me. I was like, holy cow, that's Ed. I was literally just sitting next to that guy at lunch and talking to him, right? So that's kind of it's really interesting that both of us, what are the chances of both of us talking to the same guy? He maybe told that story to maybe 5, 6, maybe 7 people, during this 1 hour break or so. It just happened to him that morning. And it's completely random where I sit in the auditorium, completely random where I sit at the lunch table. But what are the chances of him telling both of us the same story and then her telling me this story that he told him, right? That's the kind of thing that I got to chalk up to just synchronicities, and that's kind of a 1 in a million chance thing right there. And so that's kind of the first one. Another one that I thought was really interesting is, so I couldn't get a room in the actual hotel that the event was at. So I got a hotel about 2 blocks away, and there's a little bar down there, and I was sitting down there when I was talking to 2 people that were also at the event, Daniel and Danielle. First off, I thought it was kind of interesting how close their names are, Daniel and Danielle. But I was talking to Daniel, and he's telling me, I told him he's from Maryland. He's like, oh, you know what? I got an uncle who lives in Maryland. Oh, okay, that's cool, man. His name's also Malcolm. I was like, what? You got an uncle that lives in my state, and his name's also Malcolm. Malcolm is not a common name. In my entire life, I think I've ran into one other person personally, like in person, named Malcolm, right? It's a Scottish name. It's not that common. You can say, oh, Malcolm in the Middle, Malcolm X, but to actually meet somebody named Malcolm is super uncommon. And so for me to meet this guy who's got an uncle named Malcolm in my state, like, what are the chances of that, you know? For him to have a family member in Maryland, like, what, it's 1 in 50 chance, and let's say you have, you know, maybe 10 people in your family, like, it's not that unreasonable for him to have a family member in my state. But for that family member to be in my state and have my name is freaking bonkers. It's probably pretty crazy. And so that same conversation, I was talking to him, and then I was talking to Danielle, and when I went to go pay for my room, or pay for my meal, I was like, yeah, I made to put it on my room. My room number is 720. And she's like, oh, that's my daughter's birthday, July 20th. I was like, what? Like, of course it is, you know? It's little synchronicities like that, just little things just kind of matching up that is just kind of like little bonkers, you know? And so that's kind of the third synchronicity, is my room number being her daughter's birthday, which I thought was really interesting. So day 4, we are doing the walking meditation. And the walking meditation, you have a big part of it that you're standing up, and then some of it you start walking, and then you stop, you stand up, and you walk a little bit, then you stop and you lay down. It's like an hour-long meditation. And I finish this meditation, and I slowly open up my eyes, and I'm just relaxing, and I'm just staring up at the sky. I'm not looking around, staring up in the sky. About 5 seconds, I finish the meditation, open my eyes, and then Dr. Joe Dispenza walks right by my feet, just 2 feet away. In my field of view, I see Dr. Joe Dispenza, which I thought was really, really interesting. Like, he does walk around, right? He walks around during these walking meditations. He's got his baseball hat on. He's kind of like incognito mode. He's just kind of walking around with one of his assistants. So it's not uncommon for him to walk 2 feet away from me. But what's interesting is for him to do that right in front of me. Like, he didn't walk behind me. He walked right in front of me, right after I finish the meditation and I open up my eyes. And like, I'm staring up, so I can't really see anybody. So he had to be pretty close just to be in my field of vision while I'm staring up at the sky and like zenning out after this meditation. Like, that's gotta be a synchronicity that right at that moment I'm finishing it, he walks by. I just thought that was really interesting, really kind of interesting. So now day 7, the event is over. I was flying out the next morning, so I went back down to the hotel bar, just kind of eating a meal and having a drink down there. I was talking to another guy who's also at the hotel and also at the event, and he was telling me about some of the synchronicities that he noticed. And one of them was that he was talking to this girl at the event, and it turns out that she bought a dog recently. She bought a dog from the city that he lives in. Not only that, she bought a dog from his next door neighbor. But it gets even crazier than that. When she was driving to that house, she accidentally pulled into his driveway, and he had to come out. It's like, oh, no, you're actually looking for this guy over here, my next door neighbor. So he had this little, 10-second conversation with this woman months ago, and then runs into her at this event. They didn't recognize her, of course, and started another conversation with her at this event. Like, how bonkers is that? And so he was telling me this, and then yesterday he texted me. He's like, hey, I was talking to the girl again. Apparently, she sat next to you at the event, and you and her were talking. I was like, yeah, I know that girl. She's from Finland, and like me and her were talking for hours and hours at this event. It's just all bonkers, man. It's just all connected in these little coincidences. What are the chances? What are the chances that she, months prior, accidentally pulled into this random guy's driveway? What are the chances of this stuff? 1 in 100 million? 1 in 500 million? 1 in a billion? And these little coincidences, the little synchronicities just seem to pop up all the time at these events. And I was talking to everybody. Everybody was noticing these little things like this. So quick side note, I reached out to that woman that we met from the Netherlands just to kind of confirm this story. And she sent me an audio clip. Let me just play the audio clip of her telling you her synchronicity that she experienced at the event.
Yeah, I went there with a friend of mine, and that friend of mine I met also in Cancun. In June during the Dr. Joey Dispenza event, and we went there to pick up a dog because he wanted to adopt a dog. And now there was a lot of snow, and it was very hard to reach that house anyway, really in the middle of the mountains. At that lane there are only 4 houses. It's really in the middle of nature, very beautiful. And then there was a lot of snow, and we drove up there And then we came there, and and he said, "Oh no, you don't have to be here, and you have to be by my neighbor Chris." And then I saw Kevin in. He was in my group, and then I said, "Where are you from?" And he said, "From Montana." I said, "Oh, beautiful Montana. Where in Montana?" "Yeah, in Bozeman." I said, "Oh, I've been in Bozeman. Want to pick up a dog." And he said, "What kind of dog?" And I said, "It was a big Antonian Shepherd and blah blah blah." And he said, "Really?" And he said, "What's his name, Chris?" And I said, "I don't remember. It was Montana Rescue something." "No way, And then he said, "Oh, you were in front of my door." And then, yeah. And I was there, in front of his door together with Bill to ask for the way to Chris's, to ask if that was Chris's house. Really, really funny. Yeah. And it was, he's a neighbor of Chris where we went for a dog. So, yeah, how cool is this, Echt, and also, Bill is also into Dr. Joe's work. And I think it's really the energy or something, it attract each other, It's really, this is really crazy. Crazy beautiful.
Crazy beautiful. Wild stuff. Now, Dr. Joe says that if you're seeing synchronicities in your life, it is a sign that you are creating your life, that you're not just operating by default, that you are the creator and you are actively creating your life. And it's a sign that you're on the right path. You want to be seeing synchronicities like this. Really bonkers. I will say that I think me writing them down is really, really helpful. And every time I see one, I try to write one down. And these are kind of the biggest one. I notice other ones, like songs playing that one of my favorite songs, somebody else is playing it, little things like that. Really bonkers, man. This week has really changed my perspective on a lot of things, and like synchronicities, these little coincidences, like it's one of those things that my perspective has really changed in just the last couple of days. Wild stuff. If you guys want to see my full recap of what the Dr. Joe Dispenza Advanced Week-Long Meditation Retreats are like, check out this video right here. I did a recap every single day. Kind of give you my thoughts and kind of go over my experiences each day of the advanced retreat. It was a wild experience. I am definitely very grateful that I went. I think you could literally say it's like a life-changing experience. So you guys can check that out right here. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.